If you get lost online trying to work out what's going on in the Middle East at the moment, and you end up feeling that you've gone mad because people like Hegseth and Trump and Netanyahu and the Daily Mail and the rest of them are basically saying different things within the same sentence. It makes you feel mad, doesn't it? I was reading this morning an article in The Guardian about how there is a worldwide boycott that is spreading on ChatGPT, the AI large language model, which everybody is using now for everything. So I don't know how that's going to work, but nevertheless, there was a call to arms from an academic explaining why this was a good idea. Because ChatGPT was entwined with some of the worst excesses of the US administration. In the same newspaper, published on the same day, was an article about how ChatGPT was now a really useful therapy tool. And it was written by a guy who kind of started talking to ChatGPT and burst into tears. He burst into tears because the responses from ChatGPT, which went a long way to really getting him out of the fix he was in with great, good, practical, pragmatic advice, was the first time he said he'd been validated for years. It's confusing. Is it the greatest evil under the sun? Or is it, in fact, something that's an incredibly useful tool? I don't know. It doesn't matter what I think. Who cares? The point is that it's inconsistent, isn't it? Yeah, it's inconsistent. The Middle East, is it a war? Or is it not a war? Is it a military operation like Putin's military operation that's been going on for 4 years? It depends who you listen to, doesn't it? They don't really want... It's the same playbook, isn't it? The Putin playbook. They don't really want to call it a war. I mean, I don't really know what the actual definition is of a war. I mean, so far 5,000 bombs have killed about 1,400 people, something like that. Is there a point at which the number of buildings, the number of people dead, number of buildings destroyed, the number of national monuments, ancient monuments razed to the ground, standing there in the sand like Ozymandias' statue, is there a point at which the destruction is so large that we can call it a war? I don't know. The point is, it kind of can drive you mad, can't it? Is it an attack or is it defense? The American administration has said it's both, it's none, it's either or, take your pick. Is it regime change or is it not regime change? Well, they can say the same thing in the same sentence. The point is that it's all a little bit unnerving, the rationale changing all the time. This is gaslighting. Gaslighting. Now, the origin of gaslighting, to be gaslit, comes from the movie, as I'm sure you know, called Gaslight, or actually the preceding book, whereupon a man, in order to achieve the wealth of his wife, commits to driving her insane. And the method he uses to drive her insane is he makes her disbelieve her own reality.
Written 2 days before she was murdered.
And the phrase gaslight comes from the fact that he was up to no good in the attic of their house. And in those days they had gas lights. And if you turned on the light in the attic, then the lights would dim in the house. And she noticed the lights were dimming in the house. And she would say to him, the lights were dimming, somebody's up in the attic, it must be. And he'd say, "You're imagining it." And she would insist. And he would say, "You've gone crazy." And he would move pictures from one wall to another. And she'd say, "The picture's moved from that wall to that wall." "No, it hasn't. It's always been there." It doesn't take much. And you to start to question your own sanity. And that's exactly what is happening now. This is whether or not, I don't know whether this is a conceived playbook to gaslight people. I don't think so. But I mean, that is the result of seeking your information online. We can have a school that's bombed, and we can have pictures of people screaming and crying, being trapped in rubble, thousands of people. And yet, the Daily Mail, for example, just one, is focusing almost entirely on the stories from influencers who live in penthouse apartments in Dubai, who give them stories and pictures, of course, normally in bikinis, saying, "I've never been so frightened in my life. I saw a plume of smoke on the distant horizon." Terrified influencers, frightened for their lives. And if they're not talking to influencers in Dubai, they're talking to ex-footballers who have gone to Dubai to kick a football around or knock a golf ball around for 100 million a year, about how terrified they are. All of the carnage is available to them as footage, all of the facts, the death toll, it's all available. Of course, it's nowhere to be seen. And this can surely drive any sensible person slightly insane. There is a war going on, and I'm reading about an influencer who is frightened to go to the shop in order to buy some more shoes because she saw a plume of smoke in the distance. And then there's also the sort of rather weird, pathetic response of many leaders. I don't know whether they just feel impotent, but they're kind of not able to take a side in this. And then when somebody does take a side, like the Spanish Prime Minister, he is kind of generally vilified. And Donald Trump says that no business can be done with Spain. No trade can be done with Spain. This is the world we're living in. It's like a madhouse. They're mixing up Iran and Iraq in their official statements. Is it Iran or Iraq? They don't know. They don't care. It's all the same. They have no rationale. Well, if they have a rationale, it changes. I mean, it can start at the beginning of one sentence, regime change, and it ends up as being some form of kind of military suppression at the other. You just don't know. I mean, why bother following this stuff? Are we all searching for something that's kind of true? Well, don't look at Pete Hegseth's latest official announcement, which is him sounding off to the tune, I'm not making this up, to the tune of Eye of the Tiger. So while actually a kind of AI version, to avoid copyright fees, of Eye of the Tiger, and of course the songwriter of Eye of the Tiger would not, of course, let him use it in order to promote his fanciful war. Hegseth reveals a kind of bombastic statements to the tune of Eye of the Tiger, and that is an official Whitehouse communication. And you might think, am I going mad? Is this comedy, you might have thought? Is this comedy? Because the thing is that a lot of the things that the Trump administration are up to are Pythonesque. Now, Pythonesque, of course, comes from Monty Python, which was a kind of satirical type of comedy, which, in a way, was very subversive because it lampooned those powers that be and made them look as silly as they really were. The thing is that although this could have been a Python sketch in 1970, it's real and it's difficult to compute. I don't know why facts are boring, and I don't know why people are suspicious of facts. You can still get the facts from the BBC, from Associated Press, from Reuters, even from places like Al Jazeera, where they actually show images of the aftermath, the killing, the bombing, the dead children in that school, women weeping over the loss of their entire family, buildings and ancient monuments destroyed, and they have a death toll, which is always, of course, being updated. And I think at the moment it's standing somewhere in the early 1000s. There was a wonderful celebration, wasn't there, in the Whitehouse today when the ship was sunk by a submarine, and it was all very weird and science fiction. You know, it was all very strange. It was kind of movie style. Didn't really want to say what happened, but was going on about it's the first time since the Second World War or something. Anyway, madness. Most analysis you look at online is not analysis, actually, because people have no idea what the hell they're talking about by and large. They might know a little bit about the history, or they might know a little bit about, about the relationship between Israel and America, but it's commentary, really. It's not analysis, it's commentary. Rather like a football commentator is commentating on the ball being kicked from one place to another. But he's not standing back and thinking, why the fuck are we playing this game? What the hell is this thing all about? Why are there 70,000 people cheering, drinking beer and eating hamburgers? The thing is that social media, which we've talked about a lot, which is a kind of monetized form of communication. It's where you speak in a certain way in order to make money for yourself and for your organization. And while you're making money, you can spout ideological nonsense. Since the advent of the new media, since the advent of a new type of great ape, and I'm talking about the retrogressives, the parties that want to go back to the law of a jungle where, because they are the big white ape generally, they are the ones who feel they should be respected again. This is not new. This is not new. It was written about 20 years ago in that book, Stupid White Men. So the great apes, they've got the submarines to blow up the Iranian ships. They've got the guns to enter the cities of America and do what they want to do. And the question is whether or not, as a metaphor, we should consider that the sun itself, the sun that gives us life, the sun that provides the energy for all humanity and all life upon the earth, has been replaced by a gas lamp. The gaslighting that goes on is so prolific, so ubiquitous, that there are no shadows where we can hide. Thing is that gaslighting is not a clever political ploy. It is what it has always been and what it was in the film Gaslight. It is a malevolent stupidity. And it will bite back.